Startup Camel, bringing you the best and the brightest of the Israeli startup scene. A new startup every week.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Startup Camel, bringing you the best and the brightest of the Israeli startup scene. My name is Idan Ershko and I'm podcasting from Tel Aviv in Israel. For those of you who are joining me for the first time today, you are welcome to join me every Sunday for an interview with the founders of the most exciting and innovative startup companies and entrepreneurs. If you like what we do, please visit our Facebook page and like us. Today, our guest on the show is Olivier Amar. Olivier is the CEO and a co-founder at MyPermissions, which is a new way to scan, control, and clean up applications across web and mobile that have permission to access our personal data. Hello, Olivier, and welcome to the Camel.
Hi, Dan. How are you? It's great to be here.
I am very happy to have you on the show today. And as usual, we are going to have two parts for this interview. The first part is going to be all about MyPermissions and about your way to entrepreneurship. And the second part is going to be the camel race. I will ask you a few quick questions and you will try to provide short but inspiring answers. Are you ready?
Yes, great.
All right. Well, first of all, congratulations on winning the best startup in the cybersecurity category in this year's Geek Awards. How do you feel about the win?
I feel great. There's nothing more amazing than being told by your peers and being voted by your peers in the community that what you're doing is the right thing and to be put on top. It was a little bit unexpected, but very well welcome.
Definitely, and it sounds really exciting. So, Olivier, please tell us a little about yourself and about MyPermissions.
Sure. Well, I actually moved to Israel in 2005 here with my family. I came here from Montreal, Canada. And I've been more or less working in the startup scene since. Always marketing, always spend a little, get more back. I worked with some companies like El Al, the World Series of Poker, Harris Hotels and Casino. Up till recently, before MyPermissions, I was VP marketing at another great Israeli startup called Get Taxi. And prior to that, I was Chief Marketing Officer in a Forex company. So just a really great time in Israel. And MyPermissions is just an idea that stemmed from one of our Twitter accounts getting hacked and starting spewing out spam and us realizing that people's personal information today isn't stored on their computers and protected by antiviruses and firewalls. People's personal information today is online. It's in the cloud. And that privacy today starts with just one question. Who has access to your personal information online?
So you did come up with a brilliant solution to solve this problem, and we will dive into that in a few minutes. But for now, if you can, please tell us more about your background.
Well, like I said, I grew up in Montreal, so I went to school out there. Jewish education throughout elementary and high school, then college and university. I went to Bishop's University in Lennoxville. Great place. Home of the Gators. I have to be honest though, as much as education, a lot of stress is put on it. Some of my best employees at MyPermissions, they don't have university degrees. We hire based on experience and not based on education here. So education is kind of a funny question when it comes to me because I really look for what the person has to offer and not what they've been taught.
So academic degrees are not reflective of a person's capabilities.
Listen, I think the formal education system is broken. That doesn't mean that it doesn't offer benefits to a lot of people. I went through it. I turned out okay. But I've seen amazing people come out, and I'm looking at them right now through my office window, without them. And I can't imagine this company without them.
Okay. And what did you study?
I studied business administration with a focus in marketing.
And most of your career revolved around marketing, right?
That's what I did at the World Series of Poker, at Harris, for El Al, AIG, a little bit with Microsoft in Redmond. Yeah, that's what I am. I'm a marketing person.
So you have that extensive background in marketing, and at a certain point, you were bitten by the bug of entrepreneurship.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm wondering, was that something you had in you from an early age? Were you a lemonade stand kid?
I was not a lemon stand kid. I was a kid who liked to drink the lemonade, but not sell it. No, entrepreneurship for me Actually, that's not true. If I think back, I mean, I remember paying for part of my university degree with a friend that we set up a landscaping company. But,
Oh, that's pretty cool.
you do what you had to do. I paid for part of your degree with landscaping, other parts painting apartments. You did whatever you had to do. It wasn't so much I want to build a business and be a painter or a landscaper. It was really just I need to make money to pay for stuff. That's what it was about. So entrepreneurship, I don't know. It came a little bit later. I think the idea of me really wanting to understand that I could do it for myself and that there was an opportunity with a great idea, that I could do it and build the company that I've always dreamed of with the right people. That's what basically turned me into an entrepreneur.
Okay, so let's get into that a little bit. How and when did you come up with the idea for MyPermissions?
MyPermissions started out back in 2011 when, like I said, one of our Twitter accounts got hacked. And as a result, it started spewing out to all people's followers on Twitter and Facebook that they should all go on a diet because he'd lost 20 pounds. One of those. And from his mobile, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't figure out. He tried changing his password. It didn't help. The tweets kept on coming. But at the end of the day, it was about application permissions. And unfortunately, back then and even today, Twitter does not let users on mobile edit their permission settings on their mobile. So it was a pain. We understood that people had an issue that needed to be solved. We tested it in January of 2012 by putting up a very simple page online, which was 10 icons to the most popular social platforms that had permissions, like Facebook, Twitter, Google, Instagram, LinkedIn, Yahoo, Microsoft, etc. And within 48 hours, 150,000 people had clicked through that page.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, we tweeted it once, it got retweeted. A great guy who I think you know very well, Ben Lang, put it up on Hacker News, right, from Mapped in Israel. He took the page, put it up on Hacker News, and Mashable picked it up when it went hot there, and 150,000 people clicked through. NBC flew a flight crew out to Israel. It was an exciting time for the company.
So you basically knew that people were interested before a single line of code was written.
That was the market research. The market research was 150,000 people cared enough to click through. There was a pain. They started to give us a bunch of feedback because we had a comment section where they would tell us this is awesome, but we'd really like something to do it automatically, or let me know when apps access my information, or have it 24/7, stuff like that, which eventually formed the MyPermissions products that we know today. The market research, this company was built as an MVP, just very slim, very streamlined, and we still believe in that today.
Now, just to make it clear for our listeners, an MVP is a minimal viable product.
Right. MVP is all about just building what you need to at the minimum and testing it to see if there's a demand for it. And that's the way we built this product. We built it by doing stuff very slim and then listening to user feedback to see if we'd gotten it right.
And apparently you did.
Well, we're doing okay. I don't know if we did, but we're doing okay.
Definitely. Now, I'm using MyPermissions, and I must admit I was not even aware of the situation where so many applications have access to my information.
Right. Well, most people don't. There's a big education factor here that most people don't realize that they've connected to tens or even hundreds of applications or websites and developers, and they don't know who has access to their information anymore. And what we did, the same way with you, I'm sure the first time you ran the MyPermissions cleaner, you probably freaked out. I mean, the anticipation, first of all, of what's going on, and then you see a number. And it can be, I don't know how much it was with you, but just recently I had somebody in the office, they had like 174.
Wow, that's a lot.
Applications. It was insane.
Well, for me it was less, but I can definitely understand how it can reach hundreds of applications having access to my information easily.
Oh, it's hundreds, and then you add services, not just Facebook, but Twitter and Google and LinkedIn, and things get out of control. I mean, I'm sure if you run the scanner on Twitter, you'll probably find a bunch more there. And Google, by default, you're connected to a whole bunch. So before you know it, you've got at least 40 different applications that have access to your information.
And that, as we all know, could be very dangerous in some situations. All right, so you've had your market research. You knew that people were interested in the product. What was the next step?
Well, we were incubated in Lul Ventures Incubator.
Okay.
And that was awesome. Lul has been an incredible partner for us in helping us build this company up and holding our hands and teaching us how to build a company properly. So we were there for a long while. We only raised the money in February of 2013, where we raised now $1.5 million on a convertible note. So it's been good for us. We had a lot of time to build this product up right. I mean, I was at Get Taxi. David was at GreenSQL. The founders were all in different places making money, so it gave us some space to build this product up properly.
So you didn't quit your day job until the product was ready?
I didn't quit my day job until I was ready to quit my day job. Get Taxi is a great startup, and it took a lot for me to decide that I no longer wanted to work there. That's all. So once I was ready to leave, then we decided we needed to do something more serious. It took David a few months more to come to the company and finish up at GreenSQL. There was a whole bunch of things going on.
Okay, so for the benefit of our listeners out there who are interested in starting their own startup company, could you tell us what were the first steps? How did you put your thoughts together and started making them actionable?
Well, that's what I was talking about before, that we listened to our users, right? We had 60,000, 80,000 users before we even knew it. And they were giving us a lot of feedback. We made sure that we were very easy to contact. It was very easy to give us feedback about the product, about what we were doing. There was always an open channel of communication. And then it just became a matter of organizing it, because you can't listen to everyone, but you have to be able to recognize the important points and where you need to push your product. So the definition of our product today is 100% based on what people have told us and not necessarily what we thought it should be.
And that sounds like an implementation of the lean startup principles and method.
Correct. That's right.
Well, I think it is absolutely fascinating to see you guys using the lean startup approach and the success you've had using it. Now, I want to talk to you about something that is somewhat different, but still a part of every entrepreneur's journey. I want to talk to you about inspiration. Is there a person in your life you would define as a role model or a mentor?
That's a tough question. I mean, in this journey, like I said, it's important to pick your investors well. And you need to pick your investors based on who you think you can work with, not just who can give you money. And we've been blessed enough to have investors that have given us the most amazing feedback and have really been more like mentors to us on a month-to-month and sometimes even week-to-week basis. And other than that, I mean, everything I know today about management has literally come from experience. I've had the chance to work with amazing people over the last, 15 years of my working life. And I've learned from each one of them a little bit. So they've all been mentors in a certain respect. Some of them have taught me what to do. Others have taught me what not to do. Definitely. But it's important just to be able to this. And at the same time, to always look at the truth. I mean, just recently even, I read a great post by the founder of Fab. What's his name? About Jason Goldberg. He wrote a great post very recently about, it basically boiled down to why after raising $150 million with a valuation of $1 billion, he fired 300 of his 700 staff like 2 months later. And it's this great post with 16 actionable things that you should do as a startup founder. So you're always looking for inspiration, and I take inspiration from experience, other people's experience, not just people who write growth hacking posts and have never done anything for all intents and purposes. I want to speak with people who've done it, who've raised the money, done everything. And I also learn a lot from failure. Just recently, there was the Pixelate closed their doors, and the founder there was amazing enough to take all the material, the marketing material, the decks, the numbers, the metrics, and post them online along with the story.
Wow, that sounds really useful.
It's brilliant. And what's amazing about Pixelate is that they were unable to raise a round A, and this company had $500,000 in revenue per year. Which is insane, because as a startup founder, you're always thinking enough users, enough revenue, and I'll get the money. They had enough users, they had enough revenue, who you would think for a round A easily, and they weren't able to raise it just because investors thought that they were in a space that didn't have more room for another player. And they closed their doors with $500,000 of revenue. That was insane to me. So you read that, and no matter how many prizes you win, and with us, with the Geek Awards or with Le Web or any other competition we've been in and done well and won, then you have to realize that unless you run your company well and responsibly, you always run the chance that it can fail. And you have a responsibility not just to yourself and to your investors, but with me, with the 8 other people that make up MyPermissions, who were responsible for each other's incomes on a day-to-day basis.
Well, you've talked about the importance of making sure that you're running your company responsibly. And I wonder if you could find a specific instance or an example for that kind of management.
The thing that stuck out the most is, especially in Fab's case, where, you raise $150 million. That's a lot of money. And he fired his staff because it was a little bit heavy, but basically because the company could last longer with 400 employees than it could with 7 in terms of burning money. He basically just broke it down. Even if you raise $150 million on $1 billion valuation, you need to count your pennies, because every penny counts and you shouldn't be wasting them. And it's amazing, because I was actually at the Fab offices in New York in September, visiting one of our investors who had rented space inside the office from Fab in New York, and they had extra space, so they didn't just leave it there. They rented it out, because any money that comes in is good money, and it'll delay the possible closing of a company because it runs out of money. So for me, that was a big deal, because as a startup, you raise some money and the first thing you want to do is spend it. You have all these plans, all these great things that you want to do, but you understand that you can't do them all, and you really need to bear down. So that for me is right now the thing that's sticking to me the most. It's not the purple cow from Seth Godin, and it's not about managing your tasks by Stephen Covey, or telling a story. It's just right now about, as a CEO, your responsibility to manage a company financially, not as well as culture, mission, and everything else.
Wow, that is a great advice. And I think it applies not only when you start, but all along the way. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is challenges. And my first question about challenges would be, how did you cope with leaving the safe environment of Get Taxi to the bumpy entrepreneurial road?
Go back before Get Taxi. I was a chief marketing officer in the Forex industry, making great money, working for amazing people. I loved my boss. He's one of the best people I'd ever worked with. But I chose to leave for personal reasons, to make less money. Actually, more money at Get Taxi, now less money. But listen, at the end of the day, you do what your gut tells you is the right thing to do. As adults, your gut obviously involves a whole bunch of external factors. I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I have a mortgage, I have 2 cars. Those are all bills that need to be paid. So I don't just run after something because it makes me happy. I run after things because it's the right things responsibly to do. So yeah, as a startup founder, I know I was going to make less money, would have to tighten my belt, would have to cancel the trips, the vacations to Thailand and India and Japan and settle for going to Greece. But I did the thing that I thought was right in the long term for my family. And you know what? I look at myself a year ago and I was on top of the world as far as marketing officer was. I am much more knowledgeable today and way better at my craft, at my trade today than I ever thought I was back then.
So you keep on learning about marketing as the CEO of the company, and that's great, but I'm sure there are decisions you have to make as the CEO that you never had to make as a marketing director. So maybe you can share with us the most difficult decision you had to make.
Oh, wow. That's an easy one. The hardest decision I had to make was letting go of a person who needed to be let go, but who was awesome. There's no other way to put it. Sometimes you have to let go of people, even though they're amazing. They do good work because their place in the company doesn't fit at that moment in time. And them being there sometimes is a problem. And instead of compounding the problem and letting it last, you have to let them go. And I let go of a person who was really dear to me inside the company who I enjoyed working with. But I let them go because it was the right thing to do for the company. That was the hardest decision I had to make because I really didn't want to have to let her go.
Well, I'm sure it's difficult to let go of a friend, especially when you worked on the same startup together and maybe even became closer because of that environment.
Right. That's exactly it. I mean, it's a family. When you build a startup, make no mistake about it, you need to hire a family, not just people that are qualified. I turned down people who, for this job, who may have been more qualified or had better experience, but if I didn't think they would fit in with my team, I didn't hire them. I interviewed one of the best technical programmers in the country, and 30 seconds in, I decided I wasn't going to hire him because there was no way he would work out with my staff. It doesn't matter how good they are. The culture of a company is everything, and you can't mess with it.
You know, that's an interesting point. So how do you choose your family, so to speak?
Well, I've got, first of all, great staff that'll interview them and let me know if they're good at what they do, if they're qualified. When they get to me, I focus less on their qualifications. I look through their experience really quickly, but I really want to understand the person and see how that person fits in to the team he's joining, if it's the development team or the marketing team or whatnot, and the entire company. If I don't think that person will be healthy, no matter how good they are, they will not work for this company. It's just that simple. It's the easiest decision I have to make. You would think it's tough. Sometimes you have people that have worked in amazing companies that have done amazing things and are truly gifted at their trade, but you know that they would be abrasive to your company in terms of culture, then it's a very easy decision to just say, listen, you're amazing, but you're not the right person for this job. It's just that simple.
Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about success a little bit. And the first question I want to ask you is, how do you set your goals?
That's a good question. Listen, when you're a seed level startup, when you raise seed capital, even $1.5 million like we have, that's great that you've raised the monies, but my KPIs changed once I raised the money. Now it's about round A. We're a company that has a free product. We have a developer product, a certification product, which has a model attached to it, but it's a slow moving process. It's not something that we think will fund this company without a round A. We will need help down the line when we run out of our seed capital. So my KPIs today are all about building the necessary assets all the while doing the right things for the company that will get us to round A successfully. That's what it's about. It's about literally growth, revenues, and processes. Building the right process to know that anything you do today, you'll be able to repeat at scale. That's what the KPIs are for us today. So it's not just about having a successful viral campaign like we had in Germany at the end of last month, where we were the number 23 overall application in Germany, and number 3 tool. That's great. It was a great weekend for us, but those aren't KPIs that I can replicate. I can't count on the biggest newspaper in Germany featuring us on their homepage for 3 days. I need to count on things like the viral coefficient of the product. I need to count on things like campaigns that I'm running in terms of acquisition with costs, and then build those up carefully so that I know that when I go ask for more money, investors will say, okay, you've got all the necessary elements here that we feel confident enough that you'll be able to replicate what you've done at scale, and sure, we'll invest. It needs to be an easy decision.
And your product is free right now, but are you going to change it in the future?
It's a good question. We're always playing with ideas and models. Like a part of the slim model and the growth hacking model is to test different models and always test things. We have the gift of being able to test things very easily today because of the tools at our disposal. If I want to test a model, I can just target it at Australia or New Zealand or Singapore or the United States isn't a test country. It's a main market. But yeah, I can pick a test market and just target it there.
And just see how it goes.
Exactly. Just see how it goes.
All right. So you've talked about how you set your goals. Now, I wonder, how do you measure your success?
Once you've set your goals, it's very easy to measure success. The goals have to be measurable. You can't just say, I want to be a big company. It needs to be, I want to hit X million amount of users by this time and have signed up X amount of developers that are paying by this time. And either you hit them or you don't. But you can't have a goal that isn't attached to a metric. And all metrics change for each company. I was speaking to a startup today that was talking to me about metrics. They were talking about, they had a metric which was actually really cool. It was about measuring the amount of clicks it took in the product to get an action done. Not just complete the action, but how quickly they can get the person to perform the action. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. So KPIs change for each company. It doesn't matter, but they have to be measurable. You have to be able to repeat them and just go.
Okay, so let's talk about the vision for MyPermissions.
Yeah.
What would you consider to be a success for MyPermissions?
Listen, a lot of startups build companies to sell them. I don't believe you're ever going to succeed by trying to sell a company. You may get bought at some point because somebody thinks you're interested enough to make you an offer but it's definitely not about selling a company. The vision of the company is to grow into a company that offers a solution to consumers to manage, control, and monitor their personal information online, and helps developers build trust through transparency and certification.
Excellent. Okay, I want to ask you a couple of more questions before we move on to the second part. So please tell us, where are you guys working from, and are you hiring?
We are working out of Tel Aviv. We're next to Hamasgeh, actually, not far from Israeli. It's a great area, cheap rent, great office space, high ceilings. I love it. Are we hiring? Listen, I've got a pretty tight team right now, but I never say no to looking at resumes, because sometimes, and this happened to us very recently actually, that sometimes even though you're not looking, a resume falls on your desk and you say, wait, this is something that it'll get us quicker to this goal. And maybe we can leverage something and get here. So I'm always looking at resumes, because anybody that offers me an opportunity to grow and hit my goals and metrics sooner is somebody that I want to meet.
All right. So in case one of our listeners is interested, where should they send their resumes to?
Careers at MyPermissions.com.
Very good. Okay, so we are moving to the second part of the interview, which is the camel race. I will ask you a few quick questions and you will try to provide short but inspiring answers. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Okay, first question. Please give us a glimpse into your toolbox. One tool you use at work you think our listeners should know about.
I'll tell you the truth. The tool I love the most is just Google Apps. It's everything. I've even got a Chromebox in the office that we use all the time for certain stuff. Google offers so many tools today that if you're using apps, it's basically covering most of your needs today.
And is there a specific app on the Google Apps that you would like to recommend that people might not know?
Not know? Listen, analytics is... It's that. I mean, but if you want to get more specific than analytics, and analytics is actually frustrating me these days, then Mixpanel. Mixpanel's awesome.
Okay, could you tell us a few words about it?
Mixpanel is a real-time analytics solution that's actually free for smaller developers. So if you're a small developer, you can put them in pretty quickly. That offers you a very detailed glimpse into your users and your traffic. The amount of events that you can build there are amazing, and you can understand your product intrinsically. Mixpanel is literally the strongest analytics solution we've ever had to work with, and it every time I open it up, I gain insight, which is not always necessarily true when I use Google Analytics. I use Google Analytics more because I take snapshots, but if I need any kind of more information, I open up Mixpanel, and then I'm overloaded with information almost.
Excellent. Now, what is the best tip you have ever received before a presentation or a meeting with an investor?
Just tell your story. People have to remember that, especially at the seed level, you're not selling metrics. Investors don't expect you to have metrics. It's about telling a story and making the investor understand the vision and the potential market behind it. But it's about how you wrap it in a story. And this is where a book like Seth Godin's The Purple Cow may come in handy, because through this you can understand the concept of a proper story. There's a great book also called Influence that is also wonderful about storytelling. But learn to tell a story and believe in it. The most important thing, my God. I've seen people give presentations and they sound like they're reading the phone book. Catastrophe.
Great. Now, if you could go back in time and change one thing in this startup journey of yours, what would you have done differently?
Wow, I don't think I would have done much differently. I think that everything is a learning experience. As startups, you need to make mistakes in order to grow. You need to fail, and you fail all the time. It's not... Nobody expects you to win everything that you do, and every failure is something that you've understood better and you've grown from it. As long as you don't repeat your mistakes, you're okay. But don't be afraid to fail, because it's the only way you'll grow.
All right, don't be afraid to fail. Now, are you a reader? And if so, what is your favorite book?
I read books for the most part to unwind and to not think about anything that I'm doing. But the book I was reading about, Influence, which is just, it's amazing. It's one of those books which will change the way you look at everything.
Influence. Interesting. I'll check it out. Now, what would be your advice to aspiring entrepreneurs?
You know what, I said it before, don't be afraid to fail. Listen, you're not going to get it right the first time. It's very rare. And aspire to be Waze and aspire to be PriceSense and Checkpoint and all these companies. But understand that those are exceptions to the rule. Snapchat getting a $3 billion offer, $4 billion offer is a wonderful thing when you have no revenue. But in today's world, and especially with the Series A crunch that we're seeing right now out of the valley, it's build a startup that can make money. Because getting a couple of million users today isn't going to get you very far.
So you are talking about the importance of a business model?
It's not about building a business model. Building a business model is great, but understand that your product needs to make money. It can't just be we're going to build a great product and give away for free. When you look at our product at MyPermissions, we have the scanner, the cleaners, the mobile apps, which are awesome and we let people have for free. But we balance that out with a developer program for certification, which allows developers to become transparent, build trust, and increase their conversions, where we make money. We don't believe that by having a couple of million users, we're going to be the next Symantec. By the way, the book I was talking about before is called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. It's an old book, but nothing's changed there, and is the best book you will ever read. Just that simple.
Excellent, and I promise to check it out. It sounds fascinating. Now, which company from the Israeli startup scene would you recommend us to pay special attention to?
Wow, they asked me not to. There's a company that's flying under the radar right now that I'm not going to mention in the payment space. Every time I see them, I introduce them as the next billion-dollar company in Israel because I truly believe they're going to be. That being said, there's another startup, which I will speak about, called Overview by one of the founders is a dear friend by the name of Liel Sion, that this is a company I would watch for. This is a company that I think is going to do amazing things, and it can potentially disrupt a bunch of different markets overnight because that's how great their product is.
Wow, that sounds promising, and I'll check them out. Now, we've come to the last question, and I wonder, what are you doing tonight after switching off?
Okay, so like I said, I read. That's how I switch off. I have the great fortune of living in Maskeret Batya, which is pretty far away from Tel Aviv. I take the train there. That's where my car is parked, and I have 30 minutes where I can unwind completely through a book. I'm presently reading the third book of Game of Thrones, which is amazing. But after that, I'm going to get home, and this is where I completely unwind, and I totally veg. I pay attention to my emails, but if I can just sit on a sofa and watch TV, that's how I unwind. We're under such a high stress, high pressure lifestyle as startup people that the balance is really, I think, doing nothing to just let your body relax. So I try and do that as much as possible.
All right. Well, Olivier, it was great to have you on the show today. I wish you and MyPermissions all the best. Now, please tell our listeners how they can reach you, and we'll say goodbye.
People can reach me really simply, Olivier at mypermissions.com. It's Olivier. It's the easiest way to reach me. Don't add me on Facebook because I only add people I know personally, but LinkedIn is a great way as long as you send me an introduction telling me why you're connecting. It's always good. Otherwise, just shoot me an email and I'll be more than happy to answer and say hi.
Excellent. Well, for those of you who want to know more about MyPermissions and about the Israeli startup scene, please check out our website at startupcamel.com. And you can also find us on Facebook. Just look for Startup Camel. Well, thanks for listening to this episode of Startup Camel. And of course, please join me next week for another interview full of insights, inspiration, and motivation from the Israeli startup scene. In the meantime, have a beautiful week. This is Idan Hershko signing off. Goodbye.